Hello and welcome to another Deck Tech here on Chief SMTG, and welcome to one of the most diverse standard formats that I can remember in a while. In standard at the moment we have a whole host of decks, ranging from those built around Smuggler's Copter like red-white vehicles or red-black aggro or Mardu, control decks like the Jeskai and Grixis variants, as well as blue-red spells or even black-white control. There's the Black-Green Delirium decks, there's the combo decks, the Metalwork Colossus, the Aetherworks Marvel, even something as crazy as Aetherflux Reservoir. There's the Blue-White Midrange deck, which certainly seems like one of the key decks moving forward. And as well, I've got to consider any rogue decks, like Reanimator using Refurbish to bring back Gearhulks. If we're going to prosper in this diverse and competitive standard environment, we're going to need a deck to conquer all challenges. Here I have one that I took to Kaladesh game day, and I think it ticks all the boxes, so here goes. Temur Midrange is a variation on Temurge. It's a solid mid-range deck with no awful matchups in the current standard metagame. It takes old iterations of Temurge and removes the Graveyard base and Emrakul from the deck in favour of more mid-range and less hated threats. The basis for any Temurge deck is the Eldrazi Menace that it can produce. So we'll start here. We play 4 Elder Deep Fiend as comfortably the best card in the deck. Just affects the board so vastly, it turns your opponent off. It's a tempo move, it's a big creature, it's a game winner. Just an all-round all-star in this deck. We also play 3 Wretched Griff. Wretched Griff is really good in the meta at the moment. It's a pretty good card to start with. It's a flying 3/4 that you can usually get out for 3 or 4 mana, so it's a decent rate. It draws a card to replace itself in your hand, so you don't have any card disadvantage. And right now, it matches up very favourably against Smuggler's Copter, unless they've got the Parler, for example. So it's why I like having 3 of in the main deck here. And we also play 3 Kozilek's Return as the obvious board sweeper, and it comes in very useful against the aggro decks. Any Emerge deck will need some willing hosts for the Eldrazi Menace to emerge from. So we play 4 Servant of the Conduit. Servant's a great addition to this deck. It's not only a ramp spell, it fixes your mana. And when it no longer fixes your mana, it's just a 2/2, which is a fine body. And it also, something, when you've done with the ramping, it's just something you don't really need, so you're quite happy to sacrifice it to emerge. Another great addition out of Kaladesh is Filigree Familiar. So this takes the place of Pilgrim's Eye as a 3-drop artifact creature, so great with your 3 colours, in that if you are colour skewed, you can always play this card. It gains you some life, very good against the aggressive decks right now, and when it dies, it draws a card, so it's an obvious sacrifice target. We also play 2 copies of Dustwatch Recruiter. This deck has a high creature count. We play 25 creatures, so its ability to go through your deck and find those creatures is very useful. And again, it can be an emerge target if you want it. It's a 2-drop. Krallenhorde Howler is very useful if it flips in emerge, because it reduces your casting costs. So yeah, just a general good card in this deck. We also play 2 copies of Noose Constrictor. Noose Constrictor is in more of a metagame shout more than anything right now. It matches up quite nicely against Smuggler's Copter, being a 2-drop with Reach that can easily become a 3/3. It also allows you to discard your Kozilek's Returns into the graveyard without casting them. So that's another benefit. So yeah, I think it's a game that I played with this in the sideboard, and I find myself siding in regularly, so I think it's a good addition to this deck. A lot of this deck's real raw power comes from its mid-range grind, and we have 2 key creatures here. We play 4 copies of Tyler's Tracker. Tracker has just been a great card in standard since its print. It's just the king of mid-range games, in my opinion. It gives you card draw, it's a threat that scales into the late game, and if you really need to, it's an SOS emerge target for like your Elder Deep Fiends. We also play 2 copies of Verdurous Gearhulk, a new card out of Kaladesh that is really good in mirrors and really good against Black-Green Delirium. If you get any sort of board state, you can distribute the counters, or as I did at game day, if you get like blue-red spells, you just build up a big Verdurous Gearhulk, because you know they can't burn away like an 8/8, they don't have the spells to do that. So yeah, it can be a good threat, it can be a mid-range breaker. It's a great addition to the deck, I think. And to round off our spells, we have a couple of new additions. We play 3 copies of Saheeli Rai. Saheeli's a difficult planeswalker to evaluate. A +1 is not particularly powerful, but useful. You know, the Scry can help you fix your lands, find your important spells, and the 1 damages do stack up if you use it a few times. Her -2, however, is where all her power really is. The ability to copy a Verdurous Gearhulk and get the +1/+1 counters again, or a Hasty Trampler, or you can copy a Elder Deep Fiend and get a 5/6 haste, or copy a Wretched Griff. You know the drill there. And because they are copies, they have the same converted mana cost as the original, which make them great emerge targets and effectively don't leave you down a card. So, in a way, you can use Saheeli's -2 in this deck as card advantage. I think it's really quite powerful. And we also play 4 copies of Harness Lightning as just a great removal spell. From the servants and some of your lands, you will have some excess energy lying about, so you can usually take out most threats with Harness Lightning. Onto the mana base. This is quite a tricky 3-colour deck with multiple double casting costs, so it's important to get the mana base right. We'll start with the fast lands. We play 3 Botanical Sanctum, 2 Spire Bluff Canal, and 4 Aether Hub. Decisions on numbers is also weighed off fast lands versus man lands. And we go for 4 Aether Hub just as it fixes for any of our colours, and the energy can be useful to have lying around for your servants or for even your Harness Lightnings, so it's quite useful in this deck. Now on to the slow lands. We play 2 Wandering Fumarole and 1 Lumbering Falls as man lands that give us something to do in the late game if we get flooded and have nothing we can cast in our hand. We also play 4 copies of Cinderglade. Cinderglade is the best red-green fixing, and it's quite important to have red-green fixing in this deck. You want to be able to cast your 2 drops being Servant of the Conduit and Harness Lightning on turn 2, so turn 1 Cinderglade is a relatively good start for that. And obviously we also play some basics because you pretty much have to in every deck you play. So we play 3 Evolving Wilds, great with Tireless Tracker and good for fixing, and then 2 of each basic just so we can fetch them up when we need to. Onto the sideboard. As with all sideboards, it is very meta dependent, though this is the sideboard I would take to a tournament where I was expecting to see a wide variety of decks. So the main deck matches up quite well against most decks in the format right now. It doesn't need any particular hate, you know, it doesn't have any silver bullets in the sideboard. The sideboard is best seen as a way to improve the marginal chances in each match, maybe like a 5 or 10% increase in some matchups. So we'll start with our blue spells. We have a variety of counter magic. We play 1 Ceremonious Rejection, 2 Negates, and 2 Summary Dismissals. Rejection is great against the artifact decks. It can also counter Emrakul, though note they still get the cast ability. Negate is also good against artifacts. It's really good against control as well. It's good against the combo decks. You can counter the Aetherworks Marvel, for example. And Summary Dismissal is obviously also useful against control decks, and mainly there for Emrakul. Now on to the green spells. The green spells are specific answers to specific threats. So we play all one-offs here. We play 1 Blossoming Defense, 1 Natural State, 1 Clip Wings, and 1 Appetite for the Unnatural. Blossoming Defense is good against the control decks. It gives your creature hexproof for the turn, so it can nullify a removal spell. Natural State is great against Smuggler's Copter and other resourced artifacts like Cultivator's Caravan or Renegade Freighter. So it's very efficient removal. Clip Wings is also good against Smuggler's Copter, but also finds a good home against Avacyn and Emrakul, as they are both flying. And Appetite for the Unnatural is some more artifact removal that I think we need in this format. It hits Smuggler's Copter, but it also hits some of the bigger artifacts like Aetherworks Marvel or Metalwork Colossus, which is going to be useful. We also find a home for 2 more Eldrazi in our sideboard. We play 1 Lashweed Lurker and 1 Drownyard Behemoth. Lurker is good in mid-range games and games which will produce a board stall, as it just allows you to bounce a creature and gain some tempo. And Drownyard Behemoth is very powerful for its flash ability, so it can be good against control. You can flash it in and having left counter magic up, for example. It's also useful that gives you another instant speed recursion of Kozilek's Return. Smuggler's Copter being a 3-power creature gets around the first casting of Kozilek's Return, but if you have a Drownyard Behemoth in hand, you can allow your opponent to animate it, flash in your Behemoth, cast Kozilek's Return for 5 damage, and voila, you've got rid of those Copters. Around off our sideboard, we also have some powerhouses. We play a copy of Chandra, 2 copies of Jace, and another Verdurous Gearhulk, though I can see the numbers for these changing depending on your meta. Chandra is really good in board stalls and games that get a bit drawn out. Just tick her up, get her to her emblem, and you're probably going to win then, or if not, she's going to do 2 damage with her first ability, and she is an extra removal as well, so she's quite versatile. She's obviously a very powerful planeswalker as well. We also play 2 copies of Jace. Jace's ability to bounce creatures is really powerful, and in mid-range games, just scrying and drawing is also a very good advantage. I like bringing Jace against control as well. I think he's very good in those matchups. And the Verdurous Gearhulk is just... There's going to be some games where you prefer to have Verdurous Gearhulk rather than, say, Wretched Griff, just to get some more a big creature out that's got trample, and it can come in very useful against decks like Black Room Delirium, as I previously mentioned. So that's the deck tech. Thank you for watching. Like I said, this is the deck I took to game day, and I had some moderate success with it. I went 4-2 on the day, losing to a red-black aggro deck in the top 8. Let us know what you think in the comments. If you like the deck, then please like the video and subscribe to the channel. There will be more deck techs and more Kaladesh videos going up in the near future, so you can join us for those. And if you want to talk to us on any of the social media, then we have Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, all at ChiefBossMTG, and you can join us on there. And I hope we'd see you in future videos.